Hello class, my name is Jim Gilliland and I am going to share with you my presentation on organizational communication among Hispanics following an acquisition. This research paper actually related to an actual events that occurred while I was servicing and engaged with one of my clients. From an abstract perspective, what transpired following the acquisition's subsequent onboarding process that led to a walkout of approximately 25 Spanish-speaking hourly workers? That was the question I posed to myself as I looked at this literary review. Also, the literary review of merger and acquisition communication with respect to Hispanic cultures seems to be a pretty specific area, and I had some challenges, frankly, in trying to find studied and scholarly content related to that. The research paper and the work that I did revealed some expanded opportunities for research and study in organizational communication among the Hispanic and Latino cultures. So what happened? We essentially acquired a company, and half of that workforce were Hispanic and Latino descent. They were hourly workers. During the onboarding process, the human resource professional began to ask for credentials, I-9, immigration report, or immigration credentials, and the workers became distraught and ultimately walked out of the session. They went back to their workplace on the line and talked to their fellow employees, and within a couple of hours, they all walked out, and it created quite an interesting situation. So I'm interested as a communication strategist as what happened prior to create this situation, and that's why I think a literary review might help and inform this. So what did we do from a literature review standpoint? First of all, it's important to recognize that the U.S. Census indicates that 46% of workers who are Hispanic and Latino work in poultry processing facilities in the United States. That's significant, and I think it merits more research to be done. Hispanic workers gravitate to the poultry industry because it's easier to get work. It pays better than anything in their home country, even though it is hard work. A study that was done in North Carolina, a 2016 study in North Carolina related to a poultry facility there, indicated that while the Hispanic and Latino workers acknowledged that it was demanding work, they valued the job stability, pay, benefits, and opportunity for upward mobility instead of some of the challenges they may have had at home. So that I thought was interesting from a broad or macro view. The other thing is the research that's been done in deep level diversity that we read about in our text indicated that, to me, that my client still may have some issues with deep level diversity. They may think in principle that they respect the rights of people of different cultures, but in practice it may not happen that way, as we saw in our onboarding process. The acquiring company went a long way toward establishing trust. My client did the right things to try to demonstrate a foundation of trust. Trust, as Hopkins and Wethington in their 2006 paper indicated, is a real key foundation to doing that. But perhaps the best survey or the best research I saw was a 2012 paper done by Davila and Elvira that revealed that Hispanic and Latino American cultures place a high value on paternalistic leadership and group values. That informs on a significant basis how we might do onboarding better. Weber-Fried did a 2017 study that talked about the mismatch of cultural issues during acquisitions. You've already got a stressful environment in an acquisition, and when you have a misunderstanding or a mismatch of cultures from the acquiring company to the company that's being acquired, it can create stress. You can lose talented employees. You can have underperformance, and that's what the study that Weber-Fried indicated. Also, 2006 paper by Harris and Klein, which was referenced in our text, talks about something that my company, my client, was involved in. They manifest disparity diversity in that they are predominantly Caucasian. And so they have blind spots, frankly, and don't see the opportunities that they have to understand the ethnic diversity. My assertion is there's a marked disconnect between the cultural nuances among Hispanic and Latino workers and how the poultry producers can positively impact that or negatively impact that with respect to organizational behavior before, during, and after an acquisition. My methodology was pretty straightforward. I started large and went small. Looked at the last 10 years relative to M&A work, mergers and acquisitions with respect to ethnic groups. I also looked at it from a global perspective, and then looked at it from Hispanic workers in the poultry industry. I have to tell you, there's some meager work out there. I think that's a great opportunity perhaps for some thesis in strategic communications. So my result was the literature reviewed the last 10 years was geared more toward ethnicity, diversity, and culture in professional and executive contexts rather than in a manufacturing environment, much less a manufacturing environment related to Hispanic and Latino people groups. So my suggestions for further research are that my client needs to do an employee survey that is sort of directed toward the Hispanic and Latino cultures to better understand how we can improve our onboarding process and be more relevant and more sensitive, frankly, to potential other acquisitions we may make in the poultry industry. Also, more study and research needs to happen in the Hispanic and Latino cultures in a manufacturing setting. It's one thing to survey the people group in a working environment, it's another thing in a manufacturing setting. And then the poultry industry does not seem to have a lot of content in this area. It's more about the problems that exist rather than what the potential solutions are. In conclusion, the U.S. poultry producers are not in touch with the cultural nuances of their hourly workers who are specifically Hispanic and Latino people groups. 46%, as I said at the outset. The U.S. poultry industry also needs to set forth a definitive study to determine the cultural needs and nuances of Hispanic Latinos, since it's highly likely that this industry is going to grow, that the need for chicken is going to be even greater, and the need for more workers, and workers who want to work in a poultry environment. So in conclusion, I was enriched by this process. I hope you were enriched by this presentation. Have a great day, and thank you very much for your time.